Dodger Stadium fell completely silent last night in a moment so sudden, so alarming, and so utterly unexpected that it stopped every single person inside that ballpark cold. One moment Shohei Ohtani was standing on that field, composed, focused, and radiating the quiet intensity that has made him the most celebrated player on the planet. And then, in the blink of an eye, he was not. Ohtani went down. Abruptly. Violently. Right there on the field in front of thousands of stunned fans, his teammates, and a press box full of reporters who could not believe what their eyes were telling them. The gasps from the crowd were audible on every broadcast feed. Players from both teams stopped moving. Coaches froze at the top of the dugout steps. And for one long, terrible, breathless moment, nobody in Dodger Stadium made a sound. Because when the greatest player in the world suddenly falls to the ground in the middle of a game, the entire world stops with him. Within minutes, the images were spreading across every social media platform. Within hours, the story had gone completely global. And by this morning, Major League Baseball had announced that Royals stars had been formally penalized for violent play, a decision that has sent shockwaves through the baseball world and reignited a fierce and urgent debate about player safety, accountability, and the protection of the game's biggest stars. What exactly happened to Ohtani on that field? What did the Royals stars do that was deemed violent enough to trigger formal penalties? And what is the current condition of the man that the entire baseball world is desperately hoping is going to be okay? The full story is more alarming than any headline has yet captured. To fully understand the gravity of what unfolded last night, it is necessary to understand the context that surrounded this game from the very beginning. The tension between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Kansas City Royals have been building steadily throughout this series, a slow, dangerous pressure that everyone connected to both teams could feel but that nobody had yet been able to fully defuse. Sources inside the Dodgers clubhouse revealed that players had discussed the increasingly physical and aggressive nature of the Royals' play in their pre-game meetings. Veterans on the roster had privately flagged concerns about specific patterns of behavior from Royals players that had been escalating with each game of the series. The coaching staff was aware. The players were aware. And yet nothing could have fully prepared them for what happened when the game reached its most critical and explosive moment. By the time the incident occurred, the crowd inside Dodger Stadium was already at a fever pitch. The game had been tightly contested from the opening pitch, with both teams trading blows in a matchup that had the energy and intensity of a postseason battle rather than a regular season game. Everyone inside that stadium could sense that something significant was coming. They just had no idea how significant, or how frightening, it was going to be. According to reporters at field level and multiple eyewitnesses throughout the stadium, the incident that brought Ohtani to the ground occurred with a speed and violence that left virtually no time for anyone to react or intervene. Ohtani had been moving through his normal in-game routine, focused, professional, and fully locked in as he always is, when Royals stars made a play that officials and witnesses alike immediately described as crossing far beyond the boundaries of competitive baseball into something that could only be characterized as genuinely dangerous and violent. The specific actions of the Royals players in that moment, the nature of the contact, the deliberate and aggressive manner in which it was directed at Ohtani, and the complete disregard shown for his safety and well-being, were described by reporters who witnessed it firsthand as some of the most reckless and inexcusable behavior they had ever seen on a professional baseball field. And then Ohtani fell. Abruptly. Without warning. His body hitting the ground in a way that sent an immediate and collective wave of horror through every single person who was watching. The Dodgers medical staff was on the field within seconds. Players from both teams gathered around, their competitive instincts instantly replaced by genuine human concern for the man lying on the ground. Several Dodgers players later admitted that those first few seconds, before they knew anything about Ohtani's condition, before anyone had any information at all, were among the most frightening moments they had ever experienced on a baseball field. Freddie Freeman, who reached Ohtani's side almost immediately, told reporters after the game that his heart dropped the moment he saw Ohtani go down. Freeman said that everything else, the game, the score, the competition, disappeared completely in that instant. The only thing that mattered was his teammate. The only question that anyone cared about in that moment was whether Shohei was going to be okay. Freeman said that the silence that fell over Dodger Stadium in those moments was unlike anything he had ever experienced in his career. He said that the crowd, tens of thousands of people who had been loud and passionate and electric just moments before, went completely and utterly silent in a way that was both deeply moving and deeply unsettling. Because in that silence, every single person in that stadium was united by the same urgent and fearful question. What had just happened to Shohei Ohtani? Mookie Betts, visibly shaken as he addressed reporters after the game, described the scene inside the Dodgers dugout from the moment the incident occurred. Betts said that the reaction from his teammates was immediate and visceral. Players were on their feet instantly, straining to see what was happening on the field, their faces filled with a fear and urgency that he had rarely seen from a group of professional athletes who are trained to manage their emotions in high-pressure situations. Betts said that watching Ohtani go down, watching their leader, their inspiration, the person around whom so much of what this team does and believes in is built, was something that hit every single player in that dugout at the deepest possible level. He said that the anger that followed once it became clear that the fall had been caused by the violent and reckless play of Royals stars was something that filled the entire dugout with an intensity that was almost impossible to contain. Betts said that he was proud of the way his teammates maintained their composure in those moments, that despite the fear, the anger, and the shock of what they had just witnessed, the Dodgers as a team kept themselves focused on what mattered most. Getting Ohtani the help he needed. And making sure that what happened to him was never, ever allowed to happen again. Umpires moved swiftly to address the situation on the field. After consulting among themselves and reviewing the play with the urgency that the severity of the incident demanded, the officiating crew made a series of decisive calls that made clear they viewed the Royals' actions as a serious and unacceptable violation of the rules and spirit of the game. Multiple Royals stars received immediate penalties on the field, penalties that drew a loud and sustained reaction from the Dodger Stadium crowd that had been holding its collective breath throughout the entire frightening sequence of events. But the on-field penalties were only the beginning. Manager Dave Roberts, emerging from the dugout with an expression that reporters described as one of the most serious and determined they had ever seen on his face, engaged in a lengthy and intense exchange with the umpiring crew that made absolutely clear the Dodgers were not going to let this moment pass without the fullest possible accounting for what had been done to their player. Roberts later told reporters that his conversation with the umpires was direct and unambiguous. He said he made clear that the Dodgers expected every possible measure to be taken, both on the field in that moment and in the formal review process that would follow, to ensure that the Royals players responsible for Ohtani's fall were held fully and appropriately accountable for their actions. Major League Baseball moved with unusual speed in responding to the incident. Within hours of the game's conclusion, the league released an official statement confirming that a formal review of the violent play had been conducted and that multiple Royals stars had been penalized as a result of the findings. The penalties announced by MLB were described by multiple analysts and former officials as among the most significant disciplinary actions taken in response to on-field violent play in recent baseball history. The specifics of the penalties, the length of suspensions, the fines imposed, and the formal warnings issued to the Royals organization as a whole, sent an immediate and powerful message throughout the entire baseball world. This was not going to be treated as a minor incident. This was not going to be addressed with a slap on the wrist and a carefully worded statement designed to satisfy nobody. Major League Baseball had looked at what happened to Shohei Ohtani last night and had responded with the seriousness and force that the situation demanded. The reaction from across the sport was swift and largely supportive of the league's decisive response. Former players, Hall of Famers, current stars, managers, and analysts spoke publicly about the importance of the penalties and the message they sent about player safety and accountability. Several prominent voices in the game said that the speed and severity of MLB's response was exactly what the moment required, that protecting players of Ohtani's caliber, and indeed all players, from violent and reckless play had to be treated as an absolute and non-negotiable priority. Inside the Royals organization, the fallout from the penalties was immediate and significant. Manager Matt Quatraro faced an extraordinarily difficult press conference in which reporters pressed him repeatedly and forcefully about the actions of his players and the culture of aggressive play that had characterized the Royals' approach throughout this series. Quatraro, visibly uncomfortable, acknowledged the severity of the situation and expressed regret about the outcome, but his words were met with widespread skepticism from reporters who felt that his response fell far short of the clear and unequivocal condemnation that the moment demanded. Several Royals players, speaking to reporters with a candor that surprised many observers, did not attempt to defend what had happened. One veteran member of the Royals roster, speaking on condition of anonymity, said that what occurred on that field was wrong, and that the penalties handed down by Major League Baseball, while painful for the team, were deserved. The admission was striking in its honesty and spoke to the degree to which even members of the Royals organization understood that a serious line had been crossed. Inside the Dodgers clubhouse, the atmosphere after the game was heavy with emotion, a complex mixture of anger, relief, solidarity, and deep concern for their teammate. Players gathered in small groups, speaking quietly, checking their phones for updates on Ohtani's condition, and processing together the shock and trauma of what they had all just witnessed. Freeman, who has served as one of the emotional anchors of this Dodgers team throughout the season, stood up and addressed his teammates in the clubhouse. Players who were present described his words as simple, powerful, and deeply felt. Freeman said that what happened tonight was a reminder of how fragile everything can be, how quickly a game, a season, and a life can be changed in a single moment. He said that the most important thing now was Ohtani. Not the game. Not the standings. Not the pennant race. Shohei. The room, by all accounts, was completely united in that sentiment. As for Ohtani himself, the Dodgers confirmed that he had received immediate and comprehensive medical attention both on the field and in the clubhouse facilities following the incident. The team's medical staff worked quickly and thoroughly to assess his condition, and manager Roberts confirmed in his post-game press conference that Ohtani was conscious, stable, and surrounded by teammates and medical personnel who were doing everything in their power to ensure his well-being. Roberts said that a full and detailed update on Ohtani's medical condition would be provided by the organization as soon as the medical team had completed their assessment. He asked for patience and understanding from the media and the public during what he described as a very difficult and emotional night for everyone connected to the Dodgers. Ohtani, in a brief appearance before reporters that surprised many given the circumstances of the evening, spoke through his interpreter with the quiet strength and dignity that has defined his entire career. He thanked the medical staff. He thanked his teammates. He thanked the fans whose concern and support he said he could feel from the moment he went down on that field. And then he said something that stopped every reporter in that room. He said he would be back. He said it simply. He said it quietly. He said it with a certainty and a conviction in his eyes that left absolutely no room for doubt. Shohei Ohtani would be back. And the entire baseball world, from Los Angeles to Tokyo and every city in between, exhaled together and believed him. Thank you for watching. What do you think about the shocking incident involving Ohtani and the penalties handed down to the Royals stars? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting and up-to-date baseball news.